last service on Yom Kippur is Ne'ilah. Ne'ilah is a fascinating thing because it's an additional. We don't have anything like this during the rest of the year. Even on Shabbat and on Yom Tov, there are only 4 services. You've got nighttime, and then you have the morning, and then you have Musaf, which is the additional service, and then you have the afternoon, Mincha. That's it, finished. However, on Yom Kippur, we squeeze in another service. It's called Ne'ilah. Ne'ilah comes from the word lin'ol, to lock, and the gates are beginning to be closed. Those gates that have been left wide open through the whole 10 days of repentance. We're talking about the gates of repentance, the gates of prayer, all of the things that have been wide open that God is allowing us to try to send in as much as possible. It's all coming to an end, and slowly but surely those gates are going to close, and we end up praying the Ne'ilah service. It's very, if it's being prayed properly, it is something full of urgency. It's like the last moments. This is it.
Scary when someone gets up before Ne'ilah to go talk. You know, the rabbi might make a talk during Ne'ilah.
Yeah.
Scary talk.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like the last opportunity we've got inside of Yom Kippur to actually turn it into something.
One could think really bad about this year then. They can think, if you've repented every day, you know, Slach Lanu Avinu, Slach Lanu, you've done repentance for that particular day, so why do you need Yom Kippur?
You're right, you're 100% right. The truth of the matter is like this, that it's wrong to wait until Yom Kippur to do tshuva for whatever you've done throughout the year.
No, but you're already repenting for it, because you're saying...
The question is, how much do you mean it? Which means if a person really means it when they're praying, then you're right, for sure. They get to Yom Kippur, they don't have very much to do on Yom Kippur. Right? However, most people, especially when somebody's been praying, when somebody's used to praying, so they don't always, unfortunately, pay a lot of attention to what they're saying. There's a famous joke they tell, again, Jewish joke, so it's not very funny, but it's kind of deep, of a fellow, he's in the shuk in Machne Yehuda, right, and he's looking in the market, and he's looking at all the beautiful fruits and the vegetables, and all of a sudden somebody bashes into his chest. And he looks up to see, who is so rude? And he realizes that it's him. He's davening mincha in shul, and he got to Slach Lanu when you're supposed to go like that during the Amida, and he realized his wife had told him on the way home from shul that he should go to the shuk and he should buy some fruits and vegetables. So in his mind, he was already there. Right? Just logistically, he hadn't got there. Geographically, he was still davening mincha in the shul, but he wasn't paying any attention to what he was saying. It's a problem. It really is. If somebody goes through davening, on every single day of saying Slach Lanu and really meaning what it is that he's saying, then that's a tremendous thing. And when a person like that gets to Yom Kippur, for sure, that Yom Kippur is something which is supposed to be a lot more
intense.
A lot more usable, right? Because they have less to do.
Is one supposed to be crying during Ne'ilah?
Are you supposed to cry during the Ne'ilah? I can't tell you what you're supposed to do. Should you cry? I told you it, right? Should you cry if you feel like crying? You shouldn't, and if you don't feel like crying, you should. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Should you cry? I don't know. Should you be full of urgency? Yeah.
Also, on that note, why is it called? Does it have anything to do with Yom Kippurim? Because it's called Yom Kippurim.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's just finish up Ne'ilah, and let's take a look and see what we've got. So in Ne'ilah, the repetition of the Amida in Ne'ilah is something which is full of slichot. So lots of responsive praying going on. It's full of the 13 attributes of God's mercy. Hashem, Kel, Rachum, V'chanun, Erech Hapayim, Rav Chesed, Ve'emet. Everything is said. It's shouted out. People get very, very, get very into it. You get to the end of the repetition. I hope it's nothing I said. You get to the end of the Amida. And then at that point, there's a few bits and pieces that are left to be done. The Chazan will recite there's Avinu Malkeinu, which comes at the end. Now, in some synagogues over here in Israel, for example, if they're trying to get the Kohanim to be able to bench us one last time, to bless us one last time in the Ne'ilah service, they're going to finish a little bit early because the duchening, the priestly blessing, has to come before sunset. So in some shuls they duchen in the Ne'ilah if they get there before sunset. right? Which means that what happens is if you daven in a shul where that's a custom, which is a custom in the shul that I daven in, so then all of a sudden after the priestly blessings, everything now slows down considerably, and Avinu Malkeinu is recited. Avinu Malkeinu is, again, if you're trying to fill up time, so Avinu Malkeinu very often is recited one by one. It can be, it can be quite an experience. And after that, there are a few verses that are recited. Everybody says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad out loud.
7 times I shall.
And then Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, you say that seven times. You say all of these things are being said, and then the shofar is blasted. It's very simple. It's just 4 notes of a Tkiya, Shvarim, Trua, Tkiya, Gedola. That's all that it is.
And United Synagogue, you get your pack of crisps and start eating.
And then, so again, in some shuls, what you'll find is that they daven that before, that they blow the shofar before they pray Ma'ariv.
Yeah, sure.
In some shuls, you'll find that they do it after they've prayed Ma'ariv. But when all is said and done, the shofar is blasted, and then Ma'ariv is davened. The Ma'ariv, the evening service, is a regular evening weekday service, right? The only thing that's added in over there is Atachan on Tanu, which is the thing that's added in when we get to Motzei Shabbos, to the end of Shabbos or to the end of Yom Tov. And then, just when you thought that it was time to go home and have something to eat, there is, even before Havdalah, there is something called Kiddush Levana. What is Kiddush Levana? You get all excited because you hear there's a Kiddush, but it's not there's no food. It's Kiddush Levana. Kiddush Levana is sanctifying the moon. There is the halacha is that after the new moon, normally within the first 15 days of the new moon, when the moon is still growing, we go outside, and there are a whole series of beautiful prayers that are recited that talk about the moon, the waxing and the waning of the moon, that talk about our relationship, how the Jewish people, we're like the moon, and therefore we daven to God, we pray to God that He should allow the moon to reach its full potential and to stay at its fullest amount, which is really a prayer by transference. We're really praying for ourselves. And after you have recited Kiddush Levana, you can then stagger home in order to have something to eat. Of course, you can't eat anything until you've made Havdalah. So just when you thought you were going to get home and have something to eat, no, you've got to sit through Havdalah as well. Once you've made Havdalah, then you can have your meal. There is a minig, there is a custom to eat a fleishik meal. It's like a Yom Tov meal to be eaten after Yom Kippur. Some people have the custom to start off with something light, like you mentioned, a cup of coffee and a piece of cake, and just to take it easy, and then half an hour later or something to have something to eat. Okay, that gets us, we've eaten. That's it, we're done. We've eaten, and now there's one last mitzvah to take care of on Yom Kippur, at the end of Yom Kippur at night, and that is to start building the sukkah.
Oh.
The Mishnah Berurah says, Halacha says that it's a mitzvah to start building the sukkah on Yom Kippur night, on Motzei Yom Kippur, and we want to be involved. The first thing we want to do is to be involved in doing a mitzvah, and of course,
the whole idea that's the way you should start your year.
Absolutely, right, to be absorbed in mitzvahs, to be involved in mitzvahs, and you finish Yom Kippur, you're nice and pure, and the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to start making a new mitzvah, which is a mitzvah building a sukkah. Now, what is a mitzvah building a sukkah? I don't know. Some people are of the opinion that some people put up their sukkah before Yom Kippur, and they just put up the schach, which is the matting or the leaves. They put that up on Motzei Yom Kippur in order to fulfill the mitzvah. Some people start building their sukkah. Mummy start building it from scratch. If you live in a frum neighborhood like I do, so Motzei Yom Kippur sounds the whole period actually between Rosh Hashanah and after Yom Kippur sounds like you're living in a carpentry, in a carpentry workshop. Everyone's busy sawing and drilling and putting up their sukkah. Yes.
Going back to the second Yom Kippur, the issue is as follows: one could come into Yom Kippur and thinking, "This is how bad I am. Look what my life is. Look what my relationship with God is. It's diabolical."
Yes.
Should one be in that state of mind on Yom Kippur, or should one be happy?
It's an interesting question. I think it needs a certain kind of a balance, actually,
Yeah.
which means that yes, a person needs to under Yom Kippur saying, you know what, I really didn't do very well this year, and I've managed to fluff up my relationship with God on several occasions. But on the other hand, to be very happy that Yom Kippur exists. Yom Kippur is there in order to focus you.
Kippur is a
Huh?
happy holiday. It's not that.
There is a, you know that there is a Shechianu is recited, the bracha Shechianu, which is a bracha that's recited over something new and something, something good, is recited at the beginning of Yom Kippur. Right? We're reciting, so what are we reciting? The ability that we've got to Yom Kippur. We're here, we're able
It's becoming you.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you touched on it yet. What are
That's
10
it.
days of repentance?
What are they?
Yeah, have you touched on
So
it?
we did talk about it. I guess we probably spoke about it on Thursday, actually. But we spoke about the idea that really there are the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and the 1 day of Yom Kippur, which is 7 days in the middle, and each one represents one of the days of the week. And within each day of the 10 days of repentance, it takes care of all the Sundays of the year and all the Mondays of the year and all the Tuesdays of the year, which means that I've got this last moment, the last week of the year, where I'm able to try to rectify everything that I've done.
Well, it's not really that. Like, let's say I go into Yom Kippur, sorry that I'm asking so many questions, and I kneel it and I say, do you know what, God? This year I want to put on tefillin. This year I want to do this. What commitments should one be making on Yom Kippur?
You should be making commitments that you're able to stand by, which means that if a person feels that they're ready and they're able to put on tefillin, right, then to make a commitment that they want to put on tefillin is a very beautiful thing to do, right? But if the person is not really on that they're not ready to make that commitment, then to make a commitment like that is pretty silly. Now, what they should really do is they should say, God, I'm going to try to put on my tefillin as often as I can. That's going to be my commitment.
Go through the street and a Bible will
But
Wow.
that's right. Go down
My
Ben Yehuda,
got my
right?
back.
There you go. But you hear the idea, which means that if you want to make commitments that you make are really only worth something when there's a possibility that you're going to be able to do it. Right? Which making a commitment for something which is completely beyond who you are right now or what your capabilities are is pretty daft, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I'll take that as stunned silence. I mean, that seems to be the only alternative, really. The build up to Sukkot. Now, Yom Kippur, bless you. Anyway, the Yom Kippur is on the 10th of Tishrei. Sukkot is on the 15th of Tishrei, which means that we've got a very small window of opportunity to get an awful lot of things done. Right? So Yom Kippur finishes, and the next day is now the 11th of Tishrei. So you've got the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th to get your sukkah up, get the schach, which is the matting that goes on top, or the foliage that goes on top of the sukkah. You've got to buy your 4 species. You've got to set yourself.
before you Kippur.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
You can. What?
What day, what month does, on the secular calendar, does Yom Kippur and Sukkot fall under?
Normally
September?
Sukkot. I've not tried that. Normally September, but sometimes it spills over into October.
Yeah, okay.
It just depends. Sukkot very often straddles September and October, actually. But whatever. But what do we need to know secular months for?
Because I still can't think in Hebrew months.
You still can't think.
I just can't transfer the days over.
Give him another monster.
I know.
So we got a lot of things that need to be done over here. Right? We need to put up the sukkah. We need to get the 4 species. We need to get ready for Yom Tov. It's a very intensive period of the year. It's a very beautiful period of the year, but there's lots that needs to be done. What is a sukkah? A sukkah is in English it's called a tabernacle. I don't know what a tabernacle is, but it's a booth.
Dwelling place.
A dwelling place. Thank you so much. Sukkah is a dwelling place. Before we get to Sukkot, right, the build up to Sukkot, what is a sukkah? A sukkah is a temporary dwelling. Most people here, especially in Israel, many apartments are built with what's called a sukkah porch, and you build a sukkah up on your porch, and it's normally made out of plywood, whatever it is, and and it's got on the top. You need to put some kind of special covering. Either you use foliage, leaves that have been cut down. Over here, there's a lot of palm branches that are used. When I was growing up in England, we used, to cut down anything from the trees that were around in the gardens, cut down whatever there was in order to cover up to make your roof. The roof, it's got to be covered, so there's a majority is covered, but you've got to be able to see through it as well. So at night time, you've got to be able to see the stars peeping through the little cracks and the holes inside of all the foliage that you've put up.
If I put a tarp over there and poked a bunch of holes in it.
No, because it's got to be something natural, right? Something that's been growing.
How about if I put leaves, like natural stuff that was growing on top, and then I put a top on top with a bunch of holes in it?
No.
Keep most of the rain off.
No, you can't. Most of the rain has to stay on, not off.
The rain and rain.
Once you've covered the schach, it's called schach, the covering. Once you've covered it up with tarp or whatever it is, canvas, then it's not kosher anymore.
Could you put it under the tree?
Oh.
Can you put it under a tree?
Under the branches?
No, interesting. The Mishnah asked the same question, and the Mishnah said it's got to be detached from its source, which means that when you build your sukkah, you can't build it underneath a tree. It's got to be built out in the open.
No. You put a tarp under. You put a tarp under the branches that you put on top.
No, you can't. Stop it. I'm telling you. I don't know. You seem to be tarp fixated right now.
Well, I just don't want the rain getting on me.
Some kind of,
It's rain is not a mitzvah.
obviously got some kind of an obsession over here with tarp. And these are definitely things that could be taken care of. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure there must be some kind
We
of
use them a lot in the fire service. They're very useful.
there's got to be some kind of a professional somewhere that deals with tarp addiction. Right, there's turp addiction, right? So surely there must be tarp addiction as well, I would imagine.
Addiction.
Turpentine.
Oh.
Never mind. I don't want to tell you because you'll probably want to go and try it. But anyway, so you got to build your sukkah. Some people have very elaborate sukkahs. They're very beautiful sukkahs. Some people have enormous sukkahs. Some people have tiny little sukkahs. Whatever you build, it's great. You're supposed to eat in the sukkah. You're supposed to sleep in the sukkah. You're supposed to live in the sukkah. There's even a thing that when you come to eat in your sukkah, you're supposed to bring out all of the regular, utensils that you would use inside of your house. So you bring out your nice plates and bring out your crystal glasses and all kinds of things that you would normally use inside the house. You should use in the sukkah as well, in order to be living over there for 7 days. As well as putting up the sukkah, you've got to be concerned about getting a hold of the arba minim, the 4 species. The 4 species are the etrog, which is a citrus, a lulav, which is a palm branch, a hadas, which is myrtles, and the aravot, which are willow leaves. The willow leaves cost very little. The rest of them can get to be quite expensive. The idea of getting a hold of a perfect esrog is something which many people get very excited about, and they'll spend a lot of money over it. And it's an acquired taste, looking for an esrog. Esrogim come in all different kinds of shapes and sizes. They've got all different kinds of textures as well. Some of them are bumpy, some of them are smooth. You've just got to be very careful that they haven't been grafted. If it's a grafted tree, then the esrogim are not kosher. They cannot be used for sukkahs. The other thing is that there are 2 basic kinds. One comes with what's called a pitum, and the other one comes without a pitum. A pitum is, there is no real difference. You can buy one without a pitum, that's not a problem at all. However, if you started off sukkahs with a pitum, and somewhere along the pitum is no longer on your esrog, that's not so great, right? The pitum is the most delicate part of the. I tell you, the truth is, when I was growing up in England, you could only get esrogim with a pitum. The first time I saw esrogim without a pitum was when I came to Israel, and the first few years that I was here, I used an esrog with a pitum. But when I started having my own children, and the kids are a little bit, they can be a little bit. That's what happened. That after a while, I stopped using an esrog with a pitum and started using an esrog without a pitum because it was just safer. That's all. Just one less thing for the kids to break.
But the issue is, why is it called a temporary dwelling? It's like you can only be in God's presence for a temporary amount of time.
So the idea is like this, right? It's not that you can only be together with God for a temporary amount of time, but rather by going out into the sukkah and learning how to rely entirely on God, you can then go back into your home afterwards. It's like going into detox, right? Trying to get away from your reliance upon the physical. So you go out into the sukkah, and then you're able to go back in, and you're not so dependent anymore upon the physical comforts.
Also, the other thing that amazes me is that it's my favorite Torah reading of all time is in Sukkot, Koheles.
Oh, Koheles is fantastic. Yeah.
I like to think of Sukkot as camping instead of detox. I'm not a fan of detox.
No, I've seen that actually. The idea of you going without cake, going cold turkey, wouldn't do it, right?
No.
Not possible. But Koheles is absolutely beautiful. There's no doubt about it. Interestingly enough, the Haftarah that's read on Sukkot is the Haftarah of Gog or Magog, and Rav Hirsch mentions that the word Gog and Magog is the idea of that final confrontation that will take place before the Messiah comes. What's called, as I always say, what's called by the Christians Armageddon. Oh. And I think the reason it's called that is because when it breaks out, you'll say, "Armageddon out of here." But the Rav Hirsch says that the word Gog comes from the word Gag, which means a roof. And the idea of relying on the physicality, Sukkot is all about moving away from the things that we rely upon and depending upon God entirely. The reason why it comes immediately after Yom Kippur is because at that point we're in a state of spiritual purity that we're able to do that. Otherwise, it might be a little bit difficult to be able to do that.
Able to do that.
Absolutely. I was hoping that no one was able to count the amount of Abels that were abled over there.
Abel?
Canaan.
Ah.
It's a very, very beautiful festival, Sukkot. It's a time that we are drawn closer to God. We're together with God inside of the sukkah. The sukkah itself is a commemoration of the way that the Jewish people went through the desert. It's a commemoration of the clouds of glory that surrounded the Jewish people as we went through the desert, or maybe they lived inside of temporary booths that they took down and put up each time they had to camp and decamp. I don't know. But we go into the sukkah. On the first night of Sukkot, we have the Yom Tov Suda, the Yom Tov meal is eaten in the sukkah. We make a special bracha of leishev b'sukkah. Every time we eat inside of the sukkah, there's a special blessing which is recited. And the first night of Sukkot, Shechianu, you say also on Yom Tov. You say it on Shmini Atzeret as well, which we'll talk about when we get to it, because that's a separate Yom Tov. However, when you make a Shechianu over Sukkot, you go to shul, you come back from shul, you have your Suda, you go to sleep. Again, many people have the custom to sleep in the sukkah. In certain places in the world, it's not possible. It's too cold. Here in Israel, it's normally absolutely fine. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes last year there were a couple of nights when it was raining, so it wasn't so much fun.
What happens if you do Kiddush and in the sukkah and then suddenly a storm comes? Where would you eat your meal? The
minimum that you're supposed to eat in order to fulfill your mitzvah of having eaten in the sukkah is what's called a kazayis of bread, right? Challah. So you should try to make hamotzi inside of the sukkah, and then you can take everything. If it's raining, you could take everything and go back into the house and eat in the house.
Keyword there being tried. You're not able to.
Say again, what?
Keyword there being tried. If you're not able to, you shouldn't.
If you're not able to, no. I don't know what happens if you come back from shul and it's absolutely pouring cats and dogs, right?
Cancel it.
Although I don't know why it's not pouring with rain. I've got no idea. But
you're not mechuyev to.
No, so it says over there that somebody in that kind of a situation, there is no obligation to eat in the sukkah. Quite the opposite. You're exempt from your obligation to eat in the sukkah. I remember, from England, that sukkahs there was one of two modes. It was either boiling hot and the sukkah was absolutely chock-a-block full of wasps and bees, or it was freezing cold and probably pouring with rain as well. So there were some sukkahs where a successful sukkah was to be able to make kiddush and eat hamotzi in the sukkah before having to dash back into the house. And there were other sukkahs where it was, it was possible to stay there from the beginning until the end. It was possible to stay in the sukkah. It's somewhat, the weather's somewhat erratic in England. Again, in America, I imagine, just depending on where you are, depends on whether you can or whether you can't. Right?
If it's raining, can you cover the sukkah with a canopy?
You can cover the sukkah with a canopy. It's a problem on Shabbos. It's a bit of a problem because there might be a problem of CS oil of making a tent. But if you want, you could cover. If you want to make sure that the sukkah remains, doesn't get wet, doesn't get ruined, that the decorations don't get ruined. You can, some of the sukkot over here, it's not really like that. But some of the sukkot when I was growing up in England, some of them were pretty sophisticated, and they had all kinds of systems to cover the sukkah, pulley systems. Nowadays, people even have electric systems. My brother told me that there are a couple of people that he knows in the area that he lives in London where people have got sukkot built into their homes. So within the home itself, there's an area where you can remove the ceiling, right? And over there you can put your schach. And he said that some of these people, they're so sophisticated, they've got electronic sensors. And when the electronic sensor realizes that it's raining, it closes automatically the cover so that the rain won't come in to the house. And then when it stops raining, it opens itself up again.
My first year when I made Aliyah, Rabbi Lauffer?
Yeah, sure. In Achlot?
Yeah, his house. I was by him the first time. It's in his house in Sukkot. Tremendous. And it closes, it can open. It's unbelievable.
There you go, right?
Very good.
How many walls do you have to have?
You have to have a minimum of 2.5 walls.
Let's say I've got a very big house. Or for example, we had the situation at my house in Israel this year. Where on the outside on the grass we had 3 sides of the sukkah. The 3 walls of the sukkah. And then we took the 4th wall. We didn't actually have an actual wall of it. We had the door.
Right.
Of the house. You can push the door.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's 100% okay. You need a minimum of 2.5 walls to be able to make your sukkah.
Why half? Why not half?
Huh? The Gemara dashes out a whole thing over there with the way that the word sukkah is spelt. The hay of the sukkah is 2 walls and a half a wall. Right?
So
and the Gemara has a whole thing over there. It explains why you need 2.5 walls, why that's the minimum. The 2.5 walls, again, 2.5 walls they can be made out of different things. Which means, for example, here, you've got over here on the window, you've got bars on the window. I've never been quite sure if that's to stop you from going out or to stop people from getting in.
But why
don't know,
didn't they, surely, in a way, it's great, but in a way it's not, to have every Jewish festival all in 1 month, literally. Got all in one after the other, one after the other, one after the other.
The Gemara asks the same question. It's a very famous Gemara. The Gemara says like this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu really wanted to make sukkahs later on in the year.
Well, surely you can't stop and appreciate the actual festival, and you have no time to actually...
Here, so listen to what the Gemara says, and then we'll try to put it all together. We'll see how we can reach that level of appreciation.
Sorry.
But the Gemara, no, not at all. The Gemara says that it was supposed to be later on in the year. Right? The problem is later on in the year, we're moving into the winter. Right? Which means what? It means that we end up with, and it's not going to be comfortable to be living in a sukkah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that the sukkah was going to be straight after Yom Kippur. Now wait, listen. One of the ways that Sukkot is described is it's like being in a period of recuperation, which means Elul and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are very, very intensive. However, we can't live in a state of Yom Kippur continuously. Therefore, God sent us Sukkot in order to be able to take it easy in a spiritual fashion, right? Which means that we're going to take the intensity of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're going to take the purity of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and we're going to use it to live inside of Sukkot. Now, if it was further away, it would be more complicated to hold on to that feeling. Huh? Winter, right?
I love good winter.
Good, I'm pleased to hear that. But the idea is it's something very, very beautiful. Sukkot is a time for us to be able to regroup and to draw together everything that we've managed to achieve over the Elul, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, in order to be able to build up our relationship with God, in order to be able to take that into the winter months, which are darker months, colder months, and there's less going on. Right? Spiritually, there's less going on within those months. Which means that in a certain sense, Sukkot is like the preparation for going into a little bit of spiritual hibernation, I guess, that we're going to have everything we need in order to be able to get through the winter. On the first morning of Sukkot, so we go to shul, unless it's Shabbat, we go to shul with our Abba, meaning with our 4 species, and after, in Hallel, just before Hallel, everybody makes a blessing over the 4 species, and then they're waved during Hallel as well, they're going to be waved. Now, in some synagogues, straight after Hallel, they do Hoshanas, which is they take out a Sefer Torah, and somebody stands next to the bimah with the Sefer Torah, and everybody goes walking around in a circle with their lulav and esrog, reciting the special prayers. Hold on a second. In some synagogues, the custom is to wait until the end of Musaf before you do it. And whatever you do, it's fine. Each one is correct. Yeah.
So it makes more sense right after Hallel to go right into
it depends what you call makes more sense. Which means that the Ashkenazi custom is really to do it after Musaf, right? Why is that? Because it's really something, Hoshanas are really something which are affiliated to Musaf, right? As opposed to being affiliated to Hallel. The emes is, it's much more convenient to do it after Hallel, that's for sure. Your Lulav and Esrog is out already, and everybody's, been waving it around during Hallel, and just to carry on seamlessly into the Hoshanas is something which is much more convenient, there's no doubt about it. I tell you the truth, over here in Israel, the shuls, all the shuls that I davened in over here in Israel, Ashkenazi, Hasidic, it doesn't make any difference. No, they all do it straight after Hallel, right? Although the shul that I davened in when I was growing up, it was always done after Musaf. So again, whatever you do, it's going to be okay. On Shabbat, you don't take the lulav and the esrog, which means that if Yom Tov falls on Shabbat, or the first day of Sukkot is Shabbat, then you don't take your lulav and your esrog to shul. You leave it at home and you take it only for the first day of Chol HaMoed. Now again, we spoke a little bit about Chol HaMoed when we spoke about Pesach a little while ago, but we've got a series of days in between the first days of Yom Tov and the last day of Yom Tov, which are called Chol HaMoed. Chol HaMoed, the words mean, Chol means day, weekday, Moed means festival. It's a little bit of a combination of the two, which means it's permitted to do all kinds of things on a regular day, on Chol HaMoed, that you do during a regular day, like on Pesach, which means that you can drive the car, and you can use money, and you all the regular things that you would normally do, you can do. But because it's still got a flavor of Yom Tov to it, so there is a custom. First of all, davening is much longer. Every day there is Shacharit, there is Hallel, there is Kriyat Torah, we read from the Torah, there is Musaf, there's Hoshanas, right? Aside from that, there is a custom that people should try as much as possible not to write during Chol HaMoed, which means that if you can avoid writing something, then you should avoid doing that. If you can't avoid, then it's okay to write. The Mishnah Berurah says that somebody who works on Chol HaMoed, if you can avoid working on Chol HaMoed, that's a good thing to do, maybe to take off a few days of vacation time if you have the possibility. If you don't, then of course you can go to work on Chol HaMoed. No one's being told that they should lose their job over not working on Chol
My
HaMoed.
wife does not do the wash.
Washing laundry is not done during Chol HaMoed unless you've got little children at home, or people making lots of mess. Sometimes it's not just little children. Huh?
Why do you wear smarter clothing during Chol HaMoed?
So the emphasis like this again. You're trying to feel the moed, the festival part of the days rather than the more mundane. Yeah. So you'll wear clothing that's a little bit more festival minded than regular clothing in order to remind yourself that it's Chol HaMoed. It's a very beautiful time. What you'll find over here and in other religious areas, you'll find that every night there are parties going on. It's called Simchas Beis HaShoeva. The yeshiva has one night during Chol HaMoed. Different Hasidus, it becomes a big thing over here. And it's a big party. They dance late into the night. It's very spiritual. It's a very beautiful experience, and it's all reenacting what took place inside of the temple, where there was a lot of celebrations to do with the water libation that was brought on Sukkot. The last day of Chol HaMoed, the last day of the intermediate days of Sukkot, is called Hoshana Rabbah. It's considered to be one of the holiest days of the year. The Arizal gave it tremendous importance. He said that the din, the judgment which was given on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, is finalized on Hoshana Rabbah. There is a custom to stay up all night learning Torah on Hoshana Rabbah, which for you people, of course, is not a big deal because you probably do it every night anyway, which would explain why you spend most of your day asleep. But there's a custom to learn Torah the whole of Hoshana Rabbah night. There's a custom to pray with the sun up, what's called davening with the nates. And it's got there's a lot of Hoshanas that are recited. The Chazan wears a kittel, it's got a Yom Kippur flavor to it. Some of the tunes that are used inside of the prayers are the Yom Kippur prayers. It's got again, there's almost like this sense of tremendous urgency of being able to fit in whatever needs to be fitted in. It's not a very long day. There's a lot that needs to be done. And the last thing that's done on Hoshana Rabbah is, again, within inside of the prayers, there's a custom to take 5 willow branches and to bash them on the ground 5 times. That's the end of the Hoshanas. There's one last thing which is a custom to do on Hoshana Rabbah at some point in the afternoon, is to go into the sukkah and to eat something in the sukkah and to say farewell to the sukkah, because after Hoshana Rabbah we don't go back into the sukkah again. Sukkot is over. With Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow we'll talk about Shmini Atzeret, which is the last day of Sukkot, even though it's not really Sukkot. So there is a custom after you've eaten. There is a custom to eat a meal, a Suda on Hoshana Rabbah, to wash and to eat and to have some fleishik in the sukkah on Hoshana Rabbah. Right? And there is a custom again to eat kreplach. We spoke about that yesterday. Again, it's the idea of things hidden away. Hoshana Rabbah, we're talking about things being hidden away, the din. So we eat kreplach again, those little dumplings filled with meat or with chicken. And then afterwards, there is a custom towards the end of Hoshana Rabbah to go back to the sukkah, eat a piece of cake, make a brach of leishev b'sukkah, eat a piece of cake, and then to say there's a beautiful prayer that's recited at the end, which is really taking farewell of the sukkah and, praying that the hope that we fulfill the mitzvah sukkah in the correct way, and it should be counted as if we fulfilled all the mitzvahs of the entire Torah. So I think we're going to stop over here, Mitzvah Hashem, because we'll have to talk about Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, which is something that's going to take a little bit of time. We'll do that tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.